Buckle up. It's time for the Champions of Cinema podcast.
Welcome, sports fans, to the ultimate cinematic arena. I'm your host, Joe Walker, and this is the Champions of Cinema podcast. Fellow producer James Marshall and I are diving deep into the heart-pounding world of sports films, the victories, the defeats, and the unforgettable moments that make us cheer, cry, and believe in the power of the underdog. James, it's been 2 weeks since we last recorded.
Don't tell your audience that. Okay, thinking that we're slacking off. No.
Well, I think they probably noticed that I had a holiday and went to Scotland, which
They might have done.
The final episode of the series. This is episode 10 of series 1. We need to be ready for cliffhangers, deaths of main characters, I'm looking at you, and huge plot reveals. James, for this episode, I hope you're ready for one of us to ultimately die and be replaced by a new character that I'm having to quickly turn into somebody else.
You're already quizzing me. I'm like, what's he talking about? Wait, hang on. Death of character. Right, let's get on.
James, this week, what have you been watching?
Warhammer videos. Yes, it's the last 2 weeks. I've been diving into the world of Warhammer 40k. You were with me just yesterday in Warhammer World in Nottingham.
Yeah, my notes here say that I've recently binge watched Shogun from FX, which I've been watching last week.
Yeah.
Absolutely 100%.
So good.
Watch it.
I watched it last week. We're not talking about
fantastic.
this.
No, we haven't talked about that, no.
I watched it since the last episode, I think. I literally watched it in like 4 days.
And me too,
Fucking unreal, yeah. And it's all real as well. It's true story stuff.
I think it's quite close to...
John Blackthorne is based on a slightly different name, but he's based on like the real first ever Englishman to get to Japan, and he was the first non-Japanese person to be made into a samurai. So it's incredible. I loved it.
Yeah, I read a book about 10 years ago, 15 years ago that was similar. It might actually be the book of the original kind of story.
Because it's basically just like a classic like Shogun kind of samurai story, but then having that element of John Blackthorne just kind of like an extra level of intrigue that he's just this guy but has so much interest from both sides. And his curiosity into this new world he's in is kind of like almost, I feel like, we as the viewers are seeing things through his eyes.
Oh, perfectly. That's exactly why they do it that way. It's just almost the same as another Tom Cruise movie, The Last Samurai, which
similar.
Has got some similar vibes to it, giving you some insight into that world. I just thought it was really pretty. Thought it was a very beautiful movie.
So good.
I thought it had excellent cast. Had an actor in it that I have revered for a very long time, but wasn't the main character, wasn't the main Shogun character, was another character within there. Just loved it. And it had boobs, so, always going to be a win. That's very different to our episode this week, final episode of the season, and our final Tom Cruise episode, which is 1996's Jerry Maguire, which I think, unfortunately for us, at some point during this episode, we're going to start saying to ourselves, is this a sports movie or is it a rom-com masquerading as a sports movie?
That it's not it's as far as a sports movie as it bloody gets. It's a business movie, really, more than a sports movie. I mean,
this is the Champions of Business,
Champions of Economics, right? This is
exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. It's regarded as one of the best sports movies of all time, and actually, at the time that it came out, so it cost $50 million to make. The earnings were $275 million, which at the time were the highest grossing sports movie of all time, which is absolutely insane.
I think it's one of Tom Cruise's less impressive movies. I reckon that I can think of at least 10 films maybe with Tom Cruise that are better than this.
This isn't even, in my opinion, in the top 3 sports movies of 1996.
Of that year! Wow!
Yeah. I think there are 3 better sports movies. I don't even know them, in 1996.
Love it.
Here's some sports movies that came out in 1996.
Okay.
Tin Cup with Kevin Costner. Happy Gilmore came out in 1996.
Well, that's a no-brainer. Yeah.
And a movie that I'm going to introduce you to in season 2, James, called Kingpin, which is a bowling movie that is a comedy.
Ooh.
Oh, you will love it. It's even got one of the greatest actors of all time in it.
When I Google Kingpin, I get pictures of Spider-Man villains. With massive bodies.
Google knows what you're looking for. Bill Murray in that movie, just absolutely genius. let's not overly worry about that. And first and foremost, give me a haiku.
Like this film, it's not very good. Telling you now. Contract on paper. Family fortunes at risk. Show me the money.
Yeah, well, using the line from the movie always helps, definitely.
I was like, it's five syllables. I've got to use it. I was like, fine, why not?
Contract on paper is interesting because there is not a lot of contracts on paper for the majority of this movie.
There are some bad offers. You know, he gets offered, a
bit of lowballing,
lowball action and stuff. But it's at least from like a storytelling point of view, it's like, okay, like from the very beginning, like there's a clear goal.
Yes,
Cuba get his contract.
Yeah, get the Quan. Yeah,
get the Quan, and it's like from now, because I think before the last time I'd watched this film, it was like I wasn't really into NFL. I wasn't familiar with like the contracts, work structures, and rookie contracts. And I was like, oh, like this is like massively significant. Like this is as you know, Joe, like the first contract that you get as a rookie. It's like it's decent money, but you couldn't really live on that, for the rest of your life. It's the second. It's people always talk about even today. It's the second contract you make. That's the one that's able to create the generational wealth. Really, that can really support like your family and the generation after that as well. So
absolutely, it's a bit like when they say that your 40s are your money making years. Coming from the man who's currently semi-self-employed, and making the worst money I've ever made of my life. But
you've only just turned 40, so you've got 9 years and 330 something days,
something like that. I guess that's a really good point. Yeah, you're right. Look forwards and not backwards. That's a great idea.
Exactly.
What I'd like you to do for me is give us a really quick plot and synopsis for the movie before our quiz.
Jerry Maguire is a story about a successful sports agent who undergoes a moral transformation after realizing the shallowness of his career. After writing a mission statement advocating for fewer clients and more personal care, Jerry is fired from his high-powered job. With only one loyal client, Rod Tidwell, a talented but difficult football player, and the support of Dorothy, a single mother who believes in him, Jerry sets out to rebuild his career and life.
I like it. It gives us some exposition for the start of the movie. It gives us some idea about what's happening, what's going on for him. Something to be said before we get into the sort of in-depth of the scene-by-scene of this is, this movie made me hate money in America even more than I currently do. And I really, every time I visit America, every time I've been on holiday there, I come away sickened by how much the place runs on greenbacks, runs on the dollar, runs on money, how much everybody's constantly trying to take each other's money off of them. The whole motivation of life seems to be capitalism. Happiness is not supplied by money, and it is supplied by the connections of the people that we make around us.
I would not want to be a sport agent. I feel like the job feels so soulless in the sense that you're not really creating much value. You're sort of just riding off the coattails of success of other athletes that exist.
There's a certain amount of leeching happening, isn't there?
Right, and there's I guess there are some iconic sports agents around who have like a certain clientele due to their prominence and ability to negotiate and stuff. But ultimately, the most important negotiation strategy is just to play really well, and that's going to get you good contracts.
Saying all of that, it's quiz time. And something that I'd like to ask you is, what do you think was the average salary of an NFL player in 1996?
All right, I'm going to say the average salary was 500,000.
It was actually closer to 800,000. It was 787,500.
That's not like a superstar.
We open a montage monologue by our main character, Jerry Maguire, explaining the realities of sports and management and the disingenuous and disgusting world that it works within.
Some of the things in this movie are so toxic, and they're so like they're definitely above and beyond in terms of like soulless, in terms of
100%.
These agents saying whatever they need to say to like get the deal. It's just like they're so disingenuous.
So after an interaction with a client's child, Jerry has a crisis of conscience and writes down a mission statement that gets him fired by his understudy, Bob Sugar. Jerry attempts to retain all of his clients and is left with just two: Rod Tidwell, a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals, and probable first-round pick quarterback Frank Cushman. When he's trying to get his clients back, Bob Sugar's ringing all the clients at the same time. I think that's our best scene of the movie. And it gets us really into that idea that people will say whatever they need to say. Like Bob's using those lines of like, I will kill for you, I will maim for you.
I'll rape and pillage for you.
Anything to get that person still on the book.
Nothing words, yeah.
Rod's making Jerry jump through hoops here for his enjoyment, and it shows us how low willing to stoop in his own self-deprecation by doing that.
I guess there's almost links to like stockbroking and finance in the sense that you can be really successful 1 minute, and then all it takes is just one little downfall, like one little event, you can lose everything.
The house of cards will start falling apart.
Just instantly, like, just lose everything. It's like a crash.
Everything goes to shit. We start off with a downfall of our main character, and the rest of the movie's about him trying to build something back up. It's definitely going to give us a different kind of plot trope to many of the sports movies that we've watched so far. Leaving Sports Management International, Jerry takes a goldfish and attempts to recruit any others to his cause, only followed by Dorothy Boyd, who seems to be
accountant. She's an accountant.
And it seems like she's only really following him because she's kind of into him.
Yeah, we get that bit on the plane where he seems really into him, but also like...
She likes the mission statement, right? She likes the honesty.
The thing that makes it all bad, I don't think it really even gets addressed that much, is the fact that like Tom Cruise like half regretted writing that mission statement. Like the moment he realizes, they're quite cleverly with like the bomb thing, that was kind of like the realization, like, oh fuck, what did I do? So like, whereas she sees it as like a really well thought, rationally made like decision,
not written overnight in a bit of a drunken stupor.
Literally. Her perception of Jerry already a bit twisted from the beginning.
So at home with Dorothy, we meet her cohabiting and disapproving sister and a women's support group. Meanwhile, Jerry's fiancée, Avery, gives him a pep talk. Oh man, this fiancée...
Troublemaker.
I really despise her.
Whatever the American equivalent of like a girl from Surrey is. I don't know what that would. I don't know what that would be.
Is it? But... Why are you picking out a particular county? You know we're going to just lose all our listeners from that county now.
Fuck
right?
them, I don't care. No, live in Loughborough in the 21st century, Joe. Or you have in the 2020s. Like I have for 4 years, and it's just, they're repulsive, and I get the same energy.
Those similar sort of...
Yeah, it's the ones that say they're from London, but actually they're from Guildford. And I lived in Guildford for 2 years, Joe.
I suppose there are places of the world that we maybe don't appreciate as being as open and real as other places.
Sure.
Jerry visits the Cushman household, who tell him that they are going to stay with him for the upcoming draft, but no contracts. Just Cushman's dad's word. That'll be fine, won't it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Strong as oak. His word.
Yeah, they head to the draft along with Rod Tidwell in an attempt to drive up interest in both athletes. Jerry champions both athletes whilst paying particular attention to Cushman due to the likely payday that he's going to bring. However, Cushman has secretly been stolen by Bob Sugar and SMI the night before the draft. As a result, he splits with his fiancée Avery, and he realises that she is just as fake, mean and driven as the rest of the industry. This is the point where everything starts collapsing. Interestingly, when Jerry visits the Cushman household and drives away afterwards, he's like cycling through the radio stations, and it eventually settles on the song Free Falling, which is just an allegory for what he is in free fall. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even realise. No,
and he's like singing like he's enjoying it, like he's like, yeah. But the reality is he is in free fall.
Blissful ignorance. Yeah.
You'd think like the night before the draft, losing your star player and number one contract guy to a change of management. I can't imagine that would happen very often. No, because you would have a contract in writing.
To have that level of betrayal, I guess, just like complete going, not only just say, oh, I promise, but to make such a thing of it, like, oh, my word's as strong as oak. It's like, I felt like maybe there's another way they could have done it. I thought it was interesting, like how they did it. Like, part of the reasons why they went with Bob Sugar was because Jerry was busy with Cuba.
Yeah, there's a subtext of racism there, isn't there?
Subtext of racism, but kind of like, Jerry's commitment to Rod is kind of costing him his relationship with. Even though surely he knows that agents have other athletes as well.
Yeah, I suppose. But I guess there must be some kind of amount of chasing those endorsements that's happening.
I mean, I reckon it's good for like the medium level of athlete. because like for the top guys, like when just there's no doubt Justin Jefferson was going to get 30 to 35 million a year, because it's like he was clearly so consistent in his first 4 years, didn't get hurt that much. It's like, okay, like that's just what the market says, is that he's going to get that much. So that's just easy money for the agent. It's the guys who are kind of like not in like the very top, but are kind of worth having on teams that are able to kind of, it's kind of like really good like wide receiver twos that end up on like good contracts. That's probably more of a skill, because it's like that's about, maybe certain receivers we see maybe get slightly overpaid to what they're actually worth. So I don't. It's hard to tell where Rod fits into this, because it's like we see like, he's doing really well. He broke like the franchise rookie record or whatever, but like where does he fit in compared to like other receivers and stuff? It's hard to get relative sort of.
We'll come back to that in a minute with regards to his contract. I'll talk to you about how much his contract was and where that sits. Rod stays as Jerry's only client and needs his final contract. Jerry knows that this will be an uphill battle, and he calls Dorothy to head over instead of being alone. Jerry arrives drunk, confides in Dorothy about his engagement ending, talks to Ray whilst Dorothy prepares drinks and wings that nobody even eats, and Rod saves another scene over the phone. Jerry inappropriately kisses and gropes his employee before leaving, whilst resolving to save Rod's career.
No, they were in love, Joe. What do you mean? It's just right. It was the regretful kiss
and boob grab. Tell me that the scene isn't just saved by drunk Jerry Maguire telling
sort of breaks
a 6-year-old that the fucking zoo is closed.
Yeah.
And also that Rod Tidwell calls being the main character of this whole movie again in the bath with his son with bubbles on his head. That makes you go, Rod's amazing.
1997 must have been a quiet year for cinema if Cuba Gooding Jr. got an Oscar for it. I mean, he was great.
So Jerry visits the Cardinals, learns that the Cardinals don't want Rod. He explains that Rod will need to dance for them to get paid, and we get the help me, help you scene. A question for you. Is entertainment more important than output in the NFL? Does it matter how many stats that Rod gets and how many catches and how many touchdowns? Or is it that he's a valuable commodity that people want to buy and people want to see?
Are they not related?
Maybe not.
Is there a bad way to get 10 catches, 150 yards?
No, not at all. And I think what they're saying is that you could have a guy who gets 10 catches and 150 yards, but the reality is people fill the stands not only because the player is physically talented enough, but you go out of your way to go and watch that player because you're like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. He'll do something crazy. Like pre your time watching the sport, Chad Johnson was doing things like proposing to cheerleaders after catching touchdowns and putting on fake Hall of Fame jackets and stuff that said like HOF
20 question mark
20 question mark on the back. So that's, I think this is what we're sort of questioning here is, do the Cardinals want him not only as a receiver, because you can get anybody who's going to catch that many passes, or do they want him as a guy who they can sell because he's marketable and interesting? And I think we're actually finding that more and more, is that you need to have characters that people are tuning in to watch. The game on its own isn't worth buying a ticket for. The characters are something important.
Certain people are like easy to market, like your Mahomes and your Kelseys and stuff like that. But like, I think of Cuba Gooding Jr. and his portrayal as Rod. Is he like Steve Smith Sr.?
I would say he's very much like Steve Smith.
Is that the best comparison? A bit of a nasty guy, really good, really good.
Of Antonio Brown,
right? And it's kind of like I don't know how many like endorsement deals Steve Smith was getting. I think after his career was over, I think he mellowed out a bit and he's done some stuff. And he's worked with NFL Films and he's done a bit of commentating work on NFL Network. But I think he was so like hot as a player in terms of like he could just like start. You just thought there's probably going to start a fight this game.
I think there's an element there that America likes a showboat within reason, and maybe that's something that we can look at. I think that's going to come round. Just wait until we get to our section called The Sequelizer in a bit, where I've got some great ideas for you, James.
Okay.
Jerry takes Dorothy out for dinner, and one thing leads to another. Dorothy professes her love for Jerry in the morning, and he hears. Rod's offer that comes through is atrocious, even for 1996. His wife Marcy is angry and they are close to losing them as a client. They resolve to play out their current contract and then test free agency at the end of the year. Dorothy talks about taking the job in San Diego. Jerry and Rod grow closer in friendship by sharing their vulnerability, and Jerry resolves to ask Dorothy to marry him. She agrees and they stay together, and Rod sings at the wedding. This relationship between the two of them is a friendship rather than just a business relationship.
Sure.
They're starting to have a real friendship as the basis of the relationship between them, which is quite important. And I quite like Rod. I think the more I see of Rod, I'm like, I want more of Rod.
Yeah.
More of Rod in this movie would not be a bad thing.
Let's get a
Rod
Rod
being
movie.
the main character of this movie would be the best thing.
Yeah.
Season montage. Rod is the Cardinals' whole offense by the looks of it. And Jerry pushes the GM in knowing that they will miss Rod next year. Jerry follows him around the whole year, whilst Jerry and Dorothy don't have a perfect start to married life, with Jerry being away working a lot. This is the whole NFL season. Mm. And what is Jerry doing all year, apart from sitting in bed and playing with toy aeroplanes?
The agent's main work is done really in the off-season, isn't it? In terms of getting the contract. One thing in terms of endorsement deals, but you don't have to be at the game, every game. I don't know. I mean, I guess he's not got much to do if he's his only client.
And the only time,
but then it doesn't help the marriage.
Endorsement deal is the Camel Chevrolet stuff. Dorothy then comes to Jerry for "this isn't working and we made a mistake" chat, and they have a resolve to have like a nice long break as she talks about it. But this talk is horrible, but it's very indicative of a rom-com, because there can't be a romantic comedy without a near breakup.
Threat of breakup, point. Yeah.
It's just, it pains me because it makes me feel like I've been through that so many times in my life where for some reason you can't just have a conversation about, hey, can we try and make this work a little bit better? No, we have to have a threat of breakup to then come back from it.
Because me now, Joe.
See in movies. James is constantly, going to pull back the story behind Champions of Cinema for a minute, but James is constantly like, I don't really see where this podcast is going, Joe. I need you to reaffirm.
Okay, hold on a fucking second. The fuck is this? I was talking about my own personal life. I wasn't talking about this. I'm keeping this puppy afloat, okay? Me and my slightly helpful, mildly interrupting colour commentary. Right.
It's painful though. It's a painful move, and I didn't like it. I think maybe it hit me a bit too close to home.
Yeah.
With some of the conversations that I've had in life, but I didn't find it. It felt grating. I'll put it that way. It felt grating. It was not very fun at all. Right. But we do then get Jerry joins Rod pre-game and shoos away Bob Sugar, as he should. We find out that if Arizona win the last 2 games of the season, they will make playoffs for the first time in 21 years. Ooh. How does Jerry have so much access? He's at the side of the field. Then he's upstairs in the audio box. And then he's down on the field when Rod gets hurt. He's just got so much unlimited access.
How close just this agent is. It's like, the only agent I know of that I even see about was... Remember Tommy DeVito's agent, the Italian-looking guy?
Oh, that guy. No, the only actual agent I know of is Drew Rosenhaus, because he's the guy that's like, people say he's like the real Jerry Maguire. Rod has a huge game with 8 catches, the final for the winning touchdown, which hurts him. And after a very long, very tense wait, Rod wakes up and celebrates. James, would clapping at Damar Hamlin have helped? Just standing over his lifeless body and clapping at him.
Medicine's come a long way, Joe, even from the 90s. I feel like they're probably doing the how many things am I showing up thing still.
But this guy's just got eyes closed. They're not checking his even breathing. Just clap at his face. It'll be fine. But what's really cool is it gives us one of our moments of the movie, which I think is really cool. Tom Cruise is doing nothing for all of his money in this fucking movie, apart from carrying the movie to being worth millions and millions of pounds. And that's the only reason he's in it. He's just not any good in this, apart from showing me the money. I would love to go back and show this movie to the face of you talking about it in the last 2 episodes that we've...
It's the Interstellar clip of like, no!
You are that character. Don't worry, we're going to get to Joe Maguire in a minute, Joe. I'm like, no, James.
It's going to be the best one yet.
You want to go back to Days of Thunder now.
Oh, I miss Days of Thunder. Oh, fuck.
Love it. With the Cardinals making the playoffs, the buzz around Rod is massive. The hero is here, and he will get paid as a result. Jerry returns home to try and get his wife back amidst a women's support group with a showing of vulnerability, and we get the immortal "You had me at hello" line. Okay. Yeah, great, whatever. It doesn't even interest me in the slightest, that line. I'm just like, whatever, you know. Why didn't she just stop him from like laying his like whole personality out in front of 20
We live in a
women?
cynical world. Jesus, quite got dark. You know, it's like just say hi, honey. Did you really had him at hello? Like that was like that's all it took. Just seeing him again, like
just him walking through the door.
Fucking hell, yeah.
I think maybe we underestimate James because we've never been single women with children. That being a single woman in her 20s with a child and a dead ex-husband is incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
The two actors who play Jerry and Dorothy weren't the original choices. Would you like to guess who were the original choices?
Okay.
Those
Brad
characters?
Pitt.
No, it's a bit young for Brad.
Really famous, I imagine.
Very, very famous.
What the fuck?
Loves doing the voices of cowboys in animated movies.
Cowboys? Hanks?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they wanted
No,
Hanks
that
originally.
wouldn't work.
Originally, the movie was written for Hanks, and I could actually see it working better. for
Really?
Hanks.
Oh, I don't know. Not with the romance
Yes.
elements. I don't know. Has Tom been
have
in
you
a
never
romance?
seen a top? Oh, Sleepless in Seattle. You've got
Nope.
Mail.
Nope.
You know, there's lots of Tom Hanks romance movies.
Nope.
Big, you need to see Big. I
No.
mean, whatever, James.
I
you
knew
need
who
to see-
I like Dustin Hoffman to be in this film.
Showing you the money. You know, I love black people.
Christopher Walken in this film. Like, show me the money. show me the money. I love black people. Yeah, Christopher Walken would have been great in this film.
I love those impressions, but I'm going to have to cut them out because they are so horrible.
What?
On TV, Rod gets told about his new deal for $11.2 million over 4 years. He cries on TV and thanks everybody, thanking Jerry as his ambassador of Kwan. The final note from Dickie Fox about failing and succeeding, and hit the Bob Dylan and let's get out of here. Right, so the music in this movie is just crap all the way through. I don't think there's any really good music all the way through, apart from that very final, "Shelter from the Storm" by Bob Dylan.
Oh yeah.
Which is a good song. It's
Yeah.
It's got some good stuff going on. But I do want to talk quickly about money, and I'm going to ask you about money. I'm going to ask you the money. Ask you the money, James.
Hell yeah.
So Rod gets 11.2 over 4 years in 1996. We're going to play a quick higher or lower game.
So
and I'm going to give you
clear,
some.
That's 11.2 spread out over 4 years, not per year.
Yes. No. Spread out.
Which is not a lot at all compared to nowadays.
No, not a lot.
No.
Not a lot at all.
Not
No.
at all. Okay.
So Ray Lewis was on a rookie contract in 1996. It was for 5 years. Did he get more or less than Rod Tidwell?
In total,
Less. He did get less. He was on 5 years, 4.75 million.
That's a linebacker.
Yeah. Jerry Rice in 1996 got a contract extension, and for over 7 years.
Was this at the Seahawks? Raiders?
Did he get just around Raiders 49ers? I think it was Raiders. Did he get more or less than Rod Tidwell?
I have to say more.
He got a lot more.
Yeah,
a lot more.
A lot more.
He,
Okay.
his contract was for 32 million over 7 years.
So yeah, it works out more per year as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Andre Rison, who was a receiver in the 90s, played for the Falcons and a few other teams. I would say that Andre Rison's probably quite close to what Rod Tidwell would have been at that time. A very similar kind of receiver, very kind of similar kind of character. He had a 3-year deal. Do you think it was for less or more than Rod Tidwell?
More.
He was 3 years for 6.6, which I think is about comparable. God, James, this whole movie is saved by Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yeah. Worked for Oscar, you got it.
It is literally nothing without him. We think about the last 3 movies we've watched with Tom Cruise, and they are Tom Cruise vehicles. They're all things that are being driven by Tom Cruise. And this, Tom Cruise is literally there just as the marquee main character just to make money, right?
Rod is so electric in this. He's like, so whenever he's on the screen, he dominates. But as far as I'm aware, like, this film was a bit of a one-hit wonder for Cuba.
I think
was Was he in much else? You would think winning an Oscar in a film is like, right, that's you're going to be one of the premier actors for the next 10 years. But I mean,
well, it was the best supporting, wasn't it? So it wasn't a main character. I think he was great in Men of Honor, but that was in 2000. He did Boys in the Hood in 1991. He did another sports movie in 2003 called Radio. Men of Honor is excellent, and I would recommend you going away and watching it. If you've never seen that, it's not the last time we'll see Cuba playing a sports person, put it that way.
Okay.
Very famously played OJ in the OJ Simpson series.
Did he? Right, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
I think he's possibly one of the best African-American actors that we get from around this time. Mm-hmm. He's only 56 years old now, but he is top notch in my opinion.
Probably goes into my all-time starting 11 as well for fictitious athletes.
So somebody else auditioned for his role who went on to play an American football player only 4 years later. Would you like to guess who it was?
Gotta be Jamie Foxx.
It was Jamie Foxx.
There we go.
It absolutely was. Yeah, and you could actually see Jamie Foxx as that character quite comfortably.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would have been as good as Cuba at that point. Jamie hit his real stride in the mid-noughties.
Sure, and also I feel like Jamie could have been the receiver, but I feel like Cuba is maybe perhaps too flashy to be, too much personality to be a quarterback. Quarterbacks are often a little bit reserved. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
To be that loud and excited, and it's kind of like you can see him being a receiver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas Jamie Foxx's character was much more quiet and sort of reserved in any given Sunday.
So for me, just some notes on this that I've made over my time of watching it. The script, for me, any scene with Jerry and Rod is fantastic. The others are just, the only other thing that I really want to watch anything of in the whole movie is the short interjection lessons by Dickie Fox. I like those.
They're so good.
They're quite nice. We'll come back to those in a little bit because I'm just gonna use those later for something else.
You almost feel like with Days of Thunder, it was like we said that if it was just the racing, if it was just scenes of
tear out the romance,
right? Tear out the romance from both of these films essentially, and they're really good films,
Yeah, they really are, and I get why you need that because romance is what drives.
It's universal, right? It's
it will drive couples into the cinema rather than just pairs of guys. I really like the real use of Arizona Cardinal Stadium at the time. Interestingly, if you think about Rod played for the Arizona State Sun Devils. He would have played in the same stadium. So he played his college football there. He played his NFL football there. He should be. He should be a superstar for that team because it's almost like I don't know what the other equivalent in the NFL would be of players who sort of stay where. Well, it
should have been Kenny Pickett, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Joe Burrow, probably, because he went to Ohio State. He's from Ohio, went to Ohio State initially, and then went to Cincinnati.
I get that. I do get that. That's a fair point. Okay, fair enough.
If Aaron Rodgers ended up at the Niners, that would be another one.
Yeah. Those would work as well. Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Talk to me about relationships and what relationship tropes are going on in this.
Obviously, the main relationship I want to talk about is the one between Jerry and
Dorothy, of course,
Dorothy. Rod, Joe. Okay, we're not talking about the romance anymore in this film. Talk about it too much.
Champions. What are you on about? Champions of kissing. Champions of cinema.
Kissing.
Champions of romance. No.
Right. Okay. So whilst Maguire's not a coach strictly in the sense, he's still a mentor. I think in a sense, coaches aim to make players better athletes, but Jerry Maguire is ultimately a businessman. He's Rod's agent. His aim is to make him a better product, right? His aim is to make Rod a better product. Try and improve his public image, put him on television, encourage him to be a better athlete. It's a symbiotic relationship. It's like, it's like if Rod does well, Jerry does well. So it's, I guess we see there are moments in the film, like the bit in pre-draft where it's like, even though obviously Rod's not getting drafted, he uses an opportunity to get Rod in front of cameras, try and generate sort of buzz and hype to kind of encourage his contract sort of hopes and stuff. So it's hard to bring out. We always we love to talk about athlete-coach relationship is the number one thing we always try to look for when we're doing films. It's kind of what links all sports films together, right? But it's tough to find that in this film.
Yeah, it's not as pure. It's not as easy. The characters aren't. There's no super age and experience level difference.
No.
Jerry's talking about stuff not from personal experience, and I think whenever it comes from personal experience, like, whether that's Duval talking to his character in Days of Thunder, whether it's an older character talking to a younger character, Paul Newman's character talking to Tom Cruise in Colour of Money. There's gravitas.
Doc Hudson talking to Lightning McQueen.
There is gravitas to when the greybeard talks to the young athlete, right?
Sure. Because there's his personal experience, whereas like Jerry Maguire was never an athlete. At least Billy Bean was a baseball player.
Even if he was
in
a failed
Moneyball.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, even if it was a failed one, he had been there,
Yeah.
So he can kind of like, and he was a first round pick and whatever. So it's like he can sort of speak to it, whereas Jerry can't. All Jerry's able to do is just say like, there's almost a lot of damage control in terms of making sure he's doing the right endorsement deals, not just doing every single one that falls on his lap.
Yes.
It's all about image is important. Like, just if you're doing every single one there is on sort of questionable stuff, kind of ruins your image a bit. So
no, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah, I get that. I think you're completely right. And the worst part is we're having to have small interjections from this Dickie Fox character as the person who has the knowledge, and we never even see him. It's not like we ever get Jerry sort of remembers him as his mentor, but he's not a real person in the movie. He's just a.
It'd be cool to see like Jerry maybe sit down, reflect, moment of his mentor says something, and then he actually uses that advice.
That would have been clever. Yeah,
that would have been clever. But like, it's just sort of put there randomly to almost make us think that Jerry's learning. But like, there isn't a ton of growth in it.
Yeah, it's very true. I don't think there's a lot of growth.
No.
There's growth on Rod's part, but I don't think there's a lot of growth on Jerry's part. There's just change on Jerry's part.
Jerry, if Rod doesn't get this contract, then it's just like there's nothing in this film. Like the contract is really the only main thing in this.
Yeah.
From a career's point.
And that's what I don't understand as well. Is like we see. So the course of the movie takes what, a year and a half, or something along those lines.
No, I'd say
and you're like, Jerry never gets any new clients in that whole time. Like, what is he doing?
Yeah. What's he doing? It's like.
And interesting. So this is what I was going to come back to. So Jerry would net 4% from Rod's 11 million a year. 11 million total. Do you know how much that would have got him a year?
A year as well, like 100 maybe.
Yeah, it's about 85k a year after tax.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So you think he's doing all this work? He's flying around the whole of America to make $85,000 to support him and his wife.
Yeah, the wife needs a salary too. He's about 30k. Maybe even talking about taxes yet, right? So
it's poor.
Yeah,
it's poor. It kind of. I saw there was a. I didn't get to read the full article, but there was an article apparently that says that this makes it doesn't make any sense financially for Jerry to be doing it. It's like it's kind of broken. He should be working in another job whilst doing this on the side, kind of thing, which kind of makes sense. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's not a hero's journey. It's like it's trying to be a redemption story in a rom-com, and I don't really get it. I don't really see the.
It's like I don't feel like there's enough healing in. Jerry's whole memo is about trying to There's no sense that anything's been revolutionized in the same way like Moneyball did. I mean, Moneyball was real, but Jerry's talking about less clients, better personal care. And yes, okay, Jerry gets less clients, not by choice though. He loses, he lost pretty much all his clients. Some of his clients left him. And then also,
I wonder, does he actually care more for Rod?
That's what I mean. It's like, what does he actually do that's showing he just wants a contract? Let's just get a bigger contract. It's like, fuck, it's a bit.
I think it shows that he does care for him, but whilst Rod's lying on the floor with his eyes closed, you're sort of questioning the whole time. You think to yourself, well, wait a minute.
Is he just worried because he's seeing a paycheck? Right. It's just,
It's kind of painful, isn't it? It is kind of painful.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah. Oh dear, James. Just quickly, do they win? Oh, yeah, Rod gets his contract.
Yeah, they get a contract. Although, like, all those concussions, like, should it be this high? You know what I mean? It's like, fucking hell. He's had what, 4 concussions in that one season? I mean,
No. That's the ice hockey character at the start that's talking about 4 concussions. I don't think Rod's talking about having bubble brain, which is like because he's been concussed, but he's getting lit up every game. Rod needs to join the school of.
I know who you're going to say.
Of Tyler Lockett. Receiving.
Yeah. Go down. Go down.
Catch the ball and go down, Tyler. There was no point in staying up for extra yards.
Down, buddy.
But that was 90s receiver work for you. It was a lot less space. There was a lot more just catching a slant, catching a hitch. Yeah. Interesting. How do they win? Well, he follows Jerry's advice and he dances and he shows his personality. And they win because personality is as important as the physical output on the field. I think this is the point, is that Jerry's saying to him, look, the Cardinals want a star player. They don't have a star player. They don't have a guy. Even the quarterback's not a guy. And that's what he's trying to get Rod to buy into being. And it would be just easy to say that. Like, Rod, if you catch every pass and start just wiping your nose and pointing first down and being the character that everybody wants to go and watch and see, then it would have got it. But we have to go the fucking long way round to get there. It's so
risky way. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. But anyway, there you go. It brings us on, James, to my newest and favourite section of the podcast. We like to call the Great Sequelizer. And
sounds like an 80s English detective series. I love it.
Yeah,
Great.
Basil the Great Sequelizer. Yeah,
driving
Basil
a
Great
Ford Capri or something, or a Jensen Interceptor. Yeah.
But I'm wondering whether I'm actually starting to think this might be its own podcast in general, where we just have a sequel podcast where we just talk about sequels to movies that we like.
Yeah.
And this is my pitch to you for the sequel of Jerry Maguire 2. 30 years later, and Jerry Maguire is still running his company, which has grown with honesty and trust as its core values.
Nice.
Him and Dorothy are still together. Ray has had a minor's career in baseball and moved into sports administration as the GM for the Cardinals. Jerry represents Rod's son, Tyson, who is coming to the end of his career as a wide receiver for the Cardinals. Think Antonio Brown post-concussions. He is Rod Tidwell with the volume turned up, James. This kid is absolutely insane and has had far too many concussions.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
All right. And then you get Marcy being like, we can't let him, Tyson can't have any more concussions. Look at it, the boy's not. And it's like, oh, Jerry, I was crazy when I was playing, but this kid's losing it. Okay. Jerry is stuck in a situation where he has to test his conviction to honesty for the Tidwell family, knowing that Tyson has a short time left in his career, whilst Rod is trying to re-emerge as a talking head in the sports media world, a la Shannon Sharp, but having little understanding of social media, including run-ins with the Cushman, who is now in a Peyton Manning type role. So Cushman is now like a talking head. Rod wants to get into the ESPN scene. He's got this whole thing going on with Tyson coming towards the end of his career. So you've got, hey, I want to get into this, Jerry. You're still my agent. You need to get me on TV more. And Jerry's just like, you need to be more entertaining. You can't keep talking about catching slants in the 90s. Nobody cares about that, Rod. You need to talk about the modern game. And at the same time, Rod's son being very much an Antonio Brown post-concussions sort of kind of character. Bob Sugar is still our main antagonist, but has moved into a sphere that is close to that of Jerry, showing his clients love while still being as cynical as ever. So he's got a visual of being like Jerry, but he's cynical. He's trying to push his clients to both the Cardinals, who are under the who are the GM is Ray, the boy, and he's constantly talking about how many stats players have got. He loves it. Rod Tidwell had 8 catches in 1996, but also keeping Cushman in the public eye and always an attempt to steal away clients whilst also sidling up to Ray and the Cardinals. So he's like, there's this point where Ray is now the son of Jerry, the adoptive son, but he's also the GM for the Cardinals. So there's like a conflict of interest happening. And that was the basis of my initial.
I love it. Just quickly, to me about the new cast. So who's Tyson? Who's playing Tyson? First guy that came to my head was
Michael B. Jordan.
Yes! 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 Oh, yes!
Michael B.
Yeah,
Jordan.
exactly it. Perfect. I'm smelling Oscars already.
Do you know what? I sat there and I just wrote that up a couple of hours ago, and I was like,
I love it. I think it's great. I can pick the less. I think that's an Oscar winner too, potentially. Done right.
we pitch it. We just go and pitch it. Cuba, get Cuba in.
I mean, like,
You know,
Tom Cruise.
I think Cuba trying to be like Shannon Sharp is really fun. You know, and you could constantly be using like trying to use Quan in his like he's like talking about the Quan.
Who would be like some of the camp because like we haven't really talked about a ton, but there's
loads of cameos in this movie. Loads of cameos in the movie.
Especially from like Cowboys players who would have been like the chiefs of this era, right?
Oh, Stephen A. Smith would definitely be in.
He'd have to get in there.
Yeah, and he'd be like, "Hey, Rod, I like your stuff on that small channel."
Like, don't talk to me about Rod. Like the guy who had the better prime, Rod. What's his surname again?
Tidwell.
Rod Tidwell was on crack.
The only downside is I don't know where Dorothy fits into my movie with Jerry.
Maybe Dorothy died. That's always easy.
Just write her out. Just write her out as dying. Fucking hell. James, is this popcorn fun or is it an art house beauty?
Popcorn gluttony.
I wrote it as this. I wrote it as it's popcorn, but you pay for sweet and salty, and there isn't as much of one as you wanted.
Yeah.
You're just like, this is all salt. Fuck.
That's so good. Where'd you find that? That's perfect.
I just made that up. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I want
No,
sweet and salty mix.
For me, it's like ordering salt popcorn and getting sweet. It's like, this isn't at all what I wanted. Like, you've scattered some salt popcorn on the top.
Well, thank you for that. It's a nice way of you saying that my thought about it being sweet and salty, but there isn't as much fun as you wanted.
Perfect.
Thanks. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're almost right about the whole idea that it's all salty, but there's just one single popcorn layer of sweet on top, and you're just like, oh yeah, sweet popcorn. I mean, and you're like, oh no, what's happened? Where's the? And you carry on searching for it throughout the movie. And every now and then you get one little bit of it, which is your Rod Tidwell bit of, Cuba Gooding Jr. You're like, oh, okay. And you're like, for fuck's sake, back to the fucking rom-com again. This is dog shit. Like, I don't want to hate on any movies that we do, James, but this one tested my blooming limits at times. Yeah. Okay, but we can save it, James. We can save it. It's all savable. What's the TikTok moment from this movie?
So the easy one would be to say, "Show me the money." Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's like what everyone knows. Show the money.
Yeah.
I want to do the car park scene, which you kind of glossed over. I think the car park scene is the one
just where they walk out together
after the game with the Eagles.
Yes,
I believe this scene highlights the nature of this athlete-mentor relationship. The season is huge for Rod. Last year his contract needs to play his best to get a good contract. However, Maguire criticizes Rod for purely being motivated by money and that it doesn't make him a better player, and that playing like he's just playing for money will ultimately be his downfall. He needs to play from the heart, and with less arrogance if he wants to get this contract. I think it was kind of like we talk about like the turning point, like a dip, going over the top sort of scene. I think this bit kind of quietly does that. It's not like a super glamorous point in the thing. I think Jerry's sort of been being led around because obviously this is his only client and being like, I've got to keep him happy, got to do this, got to do that. I think he finally gets this off his chest. Like, you know what? Like, I'm doing my best here, okay? Like, you need to do something different as well. Like, this is both of us having to try and get this contract.
I think you're right. I think that works. I think you're 100% that is a very good one. I think Show Me the Money will always be the one that everybody remembers and sees. I think that there is something to be said for Rod waking up after being knocked out. I think there's something really good about that.
By the way, though,
he did the breakdancing himself. I want to know if that's true. That's pretty amazing.
What I want to know is, where the fuck are his teammates? Do you know what I mean?
Well,
he's just woken up.
They'd probably be on the sideline, wouldn't they, at that point?
No, but he's doing the Dion high step. First of all, he's not dead. which is great. Because especially after the Damar Hamlin situation, it's like, oh gosh, like, I mean, you want to see some like positivity, whatever. But then when he's celebrating the game-winning touchdown that's gotten the Cardinals into the playoffs, he's no Cardinal in sight. It's just, I don't know, it was weird. It was weird.
I think it was because he's on the floor for so long, but yeah, he probably...
Had everyone just gone inside the locker room? Like, oh, game's done.
And then I also like, just as a short TikTok moment, I like when Ray answers the phone to Rod.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That's a sweet scene.
That's nice.
Because there's just a really nice moment where Rod's like in the bath with his son. I think that's a really cute. I think that's something that would be maybe overlooked in some areas. But you're right. Any scene with Rod in, I've put in my TikTok moments is anything with Rod, because Rod carries the whole movie. Cuba carries the whole movie, and he deserved his little gold man as a result of it. So James, Cuba Gooding Jr. won an Oscar for this, and it was the only Oscar really award that anybody won, I think. There was a couple of others that were, Tom Cruise was nominated. However, none of that means that we're going to rate this movie as highly as anybody else does. If you're asking me about individual performances, Rod's performance in this movie, or Cuba Gooding Jr.'s performance in this movie, is a champion performance. However, how does this work out for you as an overall rating of the movie?
It would be cool to have our first flash in the pan, or bust even. Because I'm thinking, like, as a sport, probably flash in the pan. I think that's fair. Because like, if you're trying to develop like a sports movie, like shelf of films, I don't think you need to watch this film more than once. I think it's like
no. I almost never want to see this again, apart from the TikTok moments.
Yeah. I'm like, there's nothing that this film does for me that I want to re-experience. It's like, it's done.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah, I would absolutely agree with your assessment of Flash in the Pan, because it has its moments where you're like, oh, this is great.
And you want an Oscar for it. We can't call an Oscar-winning event, having something that got an Oscar to be a bust. So
no, and we're talking about it financially. At that point, it was the second highest. It was the highest rated sports movie, highest earning sports movie of all time. But is it earning any money by being a sports movie, or is it earning money because it's a fucking rom-com?
Of course, I got the actress ended up being in Bridget Jones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like
later, Tom Cruise. And I think some of it worked out financially well because it was Tom Cruise at a time when Tom Cruise was hot. It's, it had a few cool lines in it, and people will have, men will have gone, oh, let's go and watch this because it's about football. And women would have watched it because they were like, oh, actually, it's a really good rom-com story. Yeah. And it probably just snowballed out of nowhere.
Tick lots of bucket.
But I don't understand.
Boxes.
It doesn't, like, visually, apart from the American football scenes, I really don't like any of the shots in it. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. It has none of the beauty of Days of Thunder. Has none of the beauty of The Colour of Money. It even in some ways isn't as interesting as the setting for All the Right Moves. Of the 4 Tom Cruise movies we've watched, this is the weakest.
I think it's like Days of Thunder, then Colour of Money, All the Right Moves. This
I would say that Days of Thunder and Colour of Money are very close to being level par with each other.
Mm-hmm.
I love Days of Thunder, but I also think that Colour of Money is very good. And I think when you watch The Hustler at some point, I think we have to respect that. But all of those of the 4 of these movies, James, 3 of the Tom Cruise movies that we've watched have won Oscars in some place, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And this one, even though it made the most money out of all of them, let me just go back quickly. So All the Right Moves made, because I can do this, 17.2. Colour of Money made 52. Days of Thunder made 157. And this made 275 million.
It made more than all combined. The other 3 combined by a bit. Yeah.
But that's because I think it was a time it's 1996. I think that was a time when people were just they were balls deep in rom-coms. This Sleepless in Seattle, You've Got Mail, any rom-com that you can get your hands on, and it doesn't do anything for me artistically. It doesn't do anything that's really super interesting. which is a bit of a shame, really. But it doesn't mean that we can't have a learning from it. It doesn't mean that we can't have something that comes away from it as a positive. We never have to watch it ever again if we don't want to. But also, if we come towards the end of our episode and the usual thing that we do is look at a philosophical thinking, I think this movie gives us some things that maybe we don't consider as being important whilst we're watching it. But if we hold them in isolation on their own afterwards, we can do. My roundout quote this week is not a poem. It's not lyrics from a song, and it's not quotes from a famous person. They are just the 6 lessons.
Ah, love it. Love it. I'd like to hear them. I'd like to hear them all together. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna give that to you now. And Joe, you can hit the music whilst we do that. So, 1. The key to business is personal relationships. People are interested in themselves and need special attention. 2. Roll with the punches. Problems will come. There is always tomorrow. 3. If the heart is empty, the head doesn't matter. 4. Being genuinely interested in people is the key to building good relationships. 5. Ask questions, listen to the answers, and always look for ways to help. And 6. Have a proactive day with reactive time. Address unexpected events, but always get back to your written goals. I don't think those are too bad, James, really.
I think they're so good. I think they really hit close, to me. That's like, for me, it's like relationships are everything to me in terms of work, sport, play, like whatever. Like it's like if you don't form those relationships along the way that you're doing anything, then it's like it's not as enjoyable, because you have to enjoy the successes of doing something with other people. Really, that's what being human is all about, I think.
Absolutely. And I think that we can definitely identify from our times as a player and coach, and now in a relationship, that has transcended that to being more of a friendship, means that, our relationship is based upon a friendship that's been cultivated over time and over years through high quality and being genuinely interested in each other. And that shines through in the reason why we are able to continue to be friends to this day, even though our coach-athlete relationship has sort of come to its end.
That's right. Yeah. But the one that I liked the most was say the one again about being genuinely interested in a person.
Being genuinely interested in people is the key to building good relationships.
That's perfect. That's it. That's like,
yeah,
that's so true. It's like, if you want to be really like close to someone, then you have to really enjoy what they do. You have to really appreciate their interests, what motivates them. That's how you get to know someone really well.
100%. And I think that's harder as we move through the world in these days and times. Being able to take the time to find that information out from somebody and understand what motivates them, understand why they do what they want to do, and what they're passionate about isn't as easy. If you don't find someone interesting, how can you form a connection with them? Because a 100%. Connection has to be something which is like mutually shared. It has to be like there's something you like about the other person, something which you share in common, a common interest, a common perspective. If there's nothing, if you don't see something the same way as another person, then they're just a stranger to you in your life, aren't they? Yeah. Are you close in your ambitions in life? Are you committed to similar goals? And do you have a complementarity of your personality with that person?
That's it.
Those are the ways that we
measure. And that's something which Jerry is trying to gain from this movie. He feels like agents and athletes have become distant as the sports economy has grown. And I think what he wants to do is make that gap smaller.
What's interesting is how he, and it's probably one of the final thoughts that we should move away from on this movie, is how he tries to gain and glean some of the understanding of how to be a better husband and have a better relationship from Rod and his wife. And I think the Rod and his wife, the relationships in this movie are super important. And actually, I would love to see, if we were to make the sequel of this movie, I think I would love to see that relationship and how it would have grown over years and how important it would be.
The mentoring is goes both ways. we've already mentioned the effect what Jerry's trying to do with Rod, but because Rod is he's friends with Jerry, they have a friendship. Like Rod feels inclined to try and have an effect and have a positively reinforce Jerry's relationship with his wife, because Rod is very much a family person. He cares about family, and that's something which Jerry struggles with. He struggles with intimacy.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I like it. So, James, that's it. That's the end of season 1.
The end of season 1, end of the Jerry Maguire quadrilogy.
End of the Tom Cruise quadrilogy. And the cliffhanger to lay you on is, how long will you wait until season 2 starts? Is it a full 3-year wait for us to develop the new script, to develop the new characters, to record all of the episodes, and then you have to sit there waiting, twiddling your thumbs whilst we send out short things to say, season 2's coming soon, and hopefully the writers haven't changed and they haven't got bored of producing the seasons of Champions of Cinema, James? That's the question you've got to ask. Or will we just be back next week with another movie?
We're back next week, Joe. Let's go. Yeah.
And actually, we've already talked about what movie we're doing next week, haven't we?
That's right. I think it's we're going onto into the diamond, right? We're going onto into the park.
I think we're going to do a sports another.
What are we doing?
We're doing one of the greatest sports movies of all time. We're going to do a Kevin Costner baseball movie. We are going to do it in honor of the late great James Earl Jones. You're absolutely correct. We are going to watch, and we're going to start our season 2 Field of Dreams with Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
Because we've done the building of this season, James. We've done the building of this podcast into a 10-week, 10-episode, full first season podcast. We have built it, and they will come.
Yeah.
In the meantime, where can people find us? Where can people follow us?
Follow our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Champions of Cinema. Write to us your thoughts if you want. championsofcinema@gmail.com.
If you've got a movie that you want us to cover, please do. If you've got any feedback on the movies that we've already covered and you think, you know what, these guys don't know what the fuck they were talking about.
Tell us your Champions of Cinema.
And tell us what we should be looking at next. You can catch us on our email, which is
championsofcinema@gmail.com.
That's why you get paid the money, James, that you get paid. Just being able to do that off the top of your head. Or follow us on TikTok or Instagram at
Champions of Cinema.
I'll just cut that gap on that to be a lot shorter than it really was. James, thank you so much for recording this episode with me.
Pleasure.
Thank you for producing the entire first season. We're going to go and have you're going to go and have a rap party now on your own. And I'm going to just get on with editing these episodes and getting them up. Thank you so much for listening. If you've taken the time out of your day to listen to us, and thank you for downloading. Thank you for subscribing if you can. And please come back next time for season 2 of Champions of Cinema.
Bye, Ron.
Bye.